Welcome, dear listener, to a tale whispered through the winds of time. This is the story of Athena, goddess of wisdom and quiet strength. She walks not with thunder or fire, but with light that guides the heart. Her gaze has followed humanity since the first spark of thought was born. She has seen kingdoms rise with hope and fall with pride. She has watched mortals struggle, love, dream, and forget. And yet, in every age, she believes in the spark of goodness within them. Athena does not choose warriors of steel or conquest. She chooses guardians who serve with wisdom, patience, and care. They are known as the eternal soldiers, silent keepers of light. Not soldiers of war, but of truth, justice, and enduring compassion. They walk among us, unseen, guiding our steps with gentle whispers. This story is not of battles fought, but of values preserved. It is about voices that echo in silence, reminding us who we are. And tonight, we follow Athena's vision and her timeless companions. A journey across ages, where wisdom is the shield and kindness the sword. Settle in, for the story begins where eternity meets the human soul. High above the mortal world, the mountain of Olympus touches the endless sky. Its peaks glow with silver clouds that never fade with time. Here, among the halls of gods, silence carries a voice of thought. It is the voice of Athena, goddess of wisdom, guardian of balance and clarity. She does not speak in storms or thunder, but in whispers of reason. Her eyes are calm seas, reflecting both the sorrow and hope of humanity. She sits in her chamber of marble and light, watching over the mortal realm. Every dawn she listens to the songs of earth drifting upward with the wind. She hears laughter of children, prayers of the weary, dreams of the bold. She also hears cries of fear, confusion, and hearts lost in endless struggle. For Athena, wisdom is not simply knowing. It is understanding with compassion. She has watched mankind since the birth of thought and fire. She remembers the first spark of curiosity in the human spirit, the spark that turned darkness into light, silence into song, despair into hope. Yet she also remembers when greed grew faster than kindness. She remembers when kingdoms forgot justice and chose pride. She does not weep, for a goddess does not break, but she feels sorrow. Still, her heart does not give way to despair. She believes every age holds souls willing to serve something greater. In her quiet halls, Athena dreams not of wars or victories. She dreams of harmony, of wisdom guiding hands and hearts together. Her vision stretches beyond time, across centuries not yet lived. The mortals do not know it, but she watches always. When a healer touches the sick with kindness, Athena smiles. When a teacher lights the mind of a student, her heart grows brighter. When a stranger offers mercy to another, her spirit stands beside them. It is in these small acts, not the roar of battle, where Athena finds greatness. On Olympus, the other gods speak of power, thrones, and glory. They measure strength in armies, in gold, in fear that bends men's knees. But Athena knows a different truth, a gentler measure of eternity. She knows the strength that endures is not born in force, but in wisdom. She walks the quiet gardens of Olympus, where olive trees grow eternal. Their branches whisper to her of patience, their roots of steady strength. She touches the leaves, feeling their ancient calm, and she whispers back, promising to guard the fragile light of humankind. The wind carries her vow down to the world below. It settles in the hearts of mortals who pause, reflect, and choose kindness. Athena is not seen, yet she is felt in every gentle decision. She is the presence in the silence before truth is spoken. She is the voice that reminds a leader to choose justice over pride. She is the courage that steadies the hands of a weary traveler. Every moment of wisdom in the mortal world is her echo. Yet Athena knows she cannot walk this path alone. Her vision is vast, her care eternal, but her hands are few. She dreams of companions, guardians who will walk among mortals unseen. Not to rule, not to conquer, but to guide. These guardians will carry her light into every corner of time. They will not wear crowns or armor, but the unseen cloak of devotion. They will not be remembered in songs of war, but in whispers of kindness. Athena's gaze turns outward, across the horizon of eternity. She sees shadows and doubts rising in the hearts of mortals. She knows that wisdom must be carried like a torch across generations. In her chamber of marble, she closes her eyes. The stars above Olympus answer with a silent shimmer. And in that stillness, the first seed of her eternal vision is born. She will call them the eternal soldiers, not bound by steel, but by spirit, not fighting for kingdoms, but for truth. They will walk unseen, yet their presence will be eternal. Athena breathed deeply, her heart steady and strong. The story of the eternal soldiers is about to begin. In the stillness of Olympus, Athena rises from her seat of marble and light. Her thoughts drift beyond the mountain peaks, reaching into the mortal world. She does not see battlefields or thrones, but the quiet pulse of human life. Villages breathe with laughter, markets hum with voices, and families share bread. In these simple moments, she finds the essence of what must be preserved. Wisdom is not meant for kings alone. It belongs to every heart that seeks truth. Athena closes her eyes and shapes a vision in the depths of her mind. A vision of harmony, where justice flows like a river through all people. A world where knowledge is shared freely, not hoarded in towers of power. Where leaders listen before they command, and the strong protect the weak. She sees children growing with courage, not fear, guided by stories of kindness. She sees rulers who hold mercy in their hands, not swords in their grip. She sees healers whose touch carries hope stronger than any weapon. This vision glows like firelight, warm and unending in her divine heart. Yet Athena knows visions are fragile without guardians to protect them. She whispers to the wind, and the olive trees answer with soft, rustling leaves. Their voices remind her that harmony requires roots deep and branches wide. She walks among the trees, their silver leaves glowing under eternal sun. Each leaf seems to hold a memory of what mortals can become. She gathers these memories into her heart and shapes them into a dream. The dream is not of conquest, but of balance between power and kindness. For Athena understands that even the wisest must be reminded of gentleness. Even the bravest must learn to bend before they break. Her vision stretches through centuries yet to come. She sees ships sailing across unknown seas, searching for new worlds. She sees cities rising with stone and glass, their towers reaching the heavens. She sees hands building, creating, and dreaming of a brighter tomorrow. But she also sees shadows creeping between the cracks of progress. Pride that blinds leaders, greed that divides neighbors, anger that consumes peace. These shadows threaten to silence the gentle voices of wisdom. Athena feels the weight of this truth, yet she does not falter. For every shadow she sees, there is also a light waiting to rise. A poet writing words that soothe the sorrow of the weary. A mother teaching her child the strength of kindness. A craftsman creating beauty not for wealth, but for joy. These lights are sparks, and her vision is to fan them into flame. She dreams of a harmony where such sparks never fade, where compassion is not rare, but the breath of daily life. Athena turns her gaze to the heavens above Olympus. The stars seem to pulse with quiet approval, as if they share her hope. She feels the universe itself leaning toward her dream. Her voice, steady and gentle, echoes across the halls of Olympus. Let wisdom be the bond of humankind, and let harmony be their shield. Her words ripple like waves, reaching corners of time unseen by mortals. They fall into the hearts of dreamers and linger in the minds of leaders. The vision is no longer hers alone. It belongs to the world itself. Athena knows the path will be long and uncertain, but she trusts in the resilience of the human spirit. For even in the darkest night, one candle can light the way. Her vision is that candle, eternal and unwavering. And so she keeps it close, guarding it with care. From the heights of Olympus, she watches, she hopes, and she believes. This is the vision of harmony, and it will guide what comes next. Athena stood upon the high cliffs of Olympus, her gaze reaching beyond stars and oceans. She felt the weight of her vision pressing gently upon her immortal heart. Wisdom alone could not guard the fragile spark of humanity's goodness. The world needed hands and hearts to carry her light into the shadows. Not soldiers of conquest, but guardians of truth, patience, and quiet courage. In the stillness of night, she raised her hand toward the endless sky. The call rippled outward, soft as wind, yet strong as eternity itself. It traveled through the heavens, across lands, seas, and hidden places of time. The call was not spoken in words, but woven in pure intention. It searched for souls whose spirits carried kindness stronger than fear. Souls who had chosen compassion, even when silence was easier. Souls who had lifted others, though no one saw or sang of them. They were not kings, not warriors, not rulers upon golden thrones. They were teachers, healers, artists, and seekers of forgotten truths. Each one lived quietly, yet their choices shaped ripples through the ages. Athena's call reached the heart of a scholar writing by candlelight. He lifted his head, sensing a whisper that spoke of purpose beyond time. It reached a healer tending the weak with gentle hands and steady faith. She paused, feeling warmth in her chest, as if the stars leaned close. It touched an artist carving symbols of beauty into stone for no reward. He felt his chisel guided by unseen strength, his work alive with meaning. It stirred the soul of a wanderer walking alone across endless deserts. He stopped, hearing a voice in silence, urging him to walk not for self, but for others. Across centuries and continents, the call found those whose hearts were open. They did not know each other, yet they shared the same quiet fire. Athena gathered their spirits into a circle of timeless connection. In a grove of eternal olive trees, their souls met in light. They looked at one another, strangers yet bound by unseen threads. The scholar's wisdom, the healer's mercy, the artist's vision, the wanderer's courage. Together, they formed the beginning of what Athena had dreamed. She appeared among them, radiant yet calm, her voice like a flowing river. You are called not to rule, but to guide, not to conquer, but to preserve. Her words settled upon their hearts like seeds falling into fertile earth. You will walk unseen, your names forgotten, yet your impact eternal. You will whisper courage into trembling hearts and place truth in weary minds. You will guard the harmony that mortals forget and protect the light within them. The chosen ones bowed, not out of duty, but out of deep understanding. They felt no chains, no orders, only the gentle strength of purpose. Athena blessed them with endurance beyond the measure of mortal years. Their bodies would fade and renew, but their spirits would remain unbroken. They became the eternal soldiers, guardians of wisdom through the ages, not bound by steel or crown, but by devotion to what is just, not feared in battle songs, but remembered in silent choices of kindness. Athena smiled, for her vision had taken root in living souls. The wind carried their oath across mountains, seas, and endless time. Though unseen, the world would feel their presence in every age. And thus, the call of Athena gave birth to the eternal soldiers. A fellowship of hearts devoted not to victory, but to light everlasting. The circle of chosen souls stood beneath the olive trees of eternity. The air shimmered with quiet light, as though the stars bent down to listen. Each one had been drawn from different lands, different times, and different lives. They looked at each other with wonder, sensing the bond that tied them. Though strangers, they felt as if their spirits had always known one another. The scholar was first to step forward, his eyes gentle with unspoken wisdom. He carried no weapon, only the patience of a mind that seeks truth. His words had guided villages, not with commands, but with reason and clarity. He bowed to Athena, grateful to serve a purpose greater than himself. Beside him stood the healer, her hands soft yet strong with compassion. She had seen sickness and despair, but she never turned away from suffering. Her strength lay not in resistance, but in kindness that restored broken spirits. Athena's gaze lingered on her, knowing mercy was the purest form of power. The artist stood quietly, his hands stained with color and stone dust. He had given beauty to forgotten places, leaving hope carved in walls and songs. His creations reminded mortals of wonder, even when their world seemed cold. He offered his gift to Athena, promising to create not for glory, but for light. The wanderer came last, dust of desert still clinging to his sandals. He had walked alone, seeking meaning beyond the horizon of mortal roads. Yet, in his solitude, he found courage and resilience that endured all storms. His spirit was restless, yet his heart longed to guide lost travelers home. Together they stood, 4 souls bound by a call beyond time itself. Athena looked upon them, her voice flowing like the calm before dawn. "You are different in gifts, yet united in purpose," she told them. "The world may not know your names, but it will feel your presence." The chosen ones felt her blessing sink deep into their spirits. They were no longer just mortals of fleeting days, but eternal companions. The scholar would whisper truths to leaders who doubted their path. The healer would strengthen hearts when despair seemed heavier than life. The artist would paint hope where shadows tried to steal joy. The wanderer would bring courage to souls lost on lonely roads. Athena's hand rose, and the grove glowed brighter with divine light. The olive branches swayed, scattering silver leaves that drifted like blessings. Each leaf touched a chosen soul, sealing their vow in timeless silence. From that moment, they became the eternal soldiers of Athena's vision, not bound by land, crown, or the passage of years. They would walk across generations, unseen yet always near. Their presence would not be marked in statues or songs of battle. It would live in quiet acts, a choice for mercy, a step toward truth. The circle widened as more souls across ages answered the call. A poet whose verses carried peace through a war-torn city. A midwife whose calm hands brought life into the world with dignity. A philosopher who asked questions that opened hearts instead of dividing them. An explorer who mapped stars so that others might find their way home. All were drawn by Athena's whisper, their lives stitched into her eternal fabric. The eternal soldiers grew not in number alone, but in diversity of gifts. Each brought a light unique, yet all lights shone toward the same horizon. Athena smiled, for her dream was no longer a vision, it was living truth. The grove of olive trees became their sanctuary, hidden from mortal eyes. Here they returned, gathering stories, sharing wisdom, renewing their vows. Time outside moved swiftly, yet within the grove, it flowed like a gentle stream. The world would change, kingdoms fall, empires rise, ages turn, but they endured. The eternal soldiers were no longer ordinary souls. They were guardians of balance, chosen not for strength, but for love. And as Athena watched them, her heart grew certain and calm. The seeds she planted would guide humanity, one silent choice at a time. And so the story of the chosen ones began to unfold across eternity. The eternal soldiers began their silent journey through the fabric of mortal time. They did not travel by ships or roads, but by the quiet call of destiny. One moment they stood beneath the olive trees, the next within a distant age. The scholar opened his eyes in a city of marble streets and golden light. The people debated fiercely, voices clashing like waves against stone walls. Yet beneath their words, fear lingered, for they doubted their path ahead. The scholar stepped forward, not as a master, but as a humble listener. He asked questions that opened their hearts, guiding them to see their unity. No one remembered his name, yet his words stayed, shaping laws of justice. Elsewhere, the healer walked into a village where illness shadowed every door. Children coughed and parents wept, believing hope had already departed. Her hands carried no medicine of gods, only herbs and gentle touch. Yet her presence breathed strength, and people found courage to fight despair. Her gift was not to cure every sickness, but to awaken resilience within hearts. The artist's journey led him to a ruined temple, broken and abandoned. The villagers feared it, calling it cursed, left to crumble into dust. But the artist saw not ruin, but the seed of rebirth within stone. With brush, with chisel, he reshaped emptiness into a place of beauty. When light touched the new murals, villagers gathered, wonder stirring within them. It was not a shrine to gods, but to hope reborn in human hands. The wanderer's path carried him into deserts where caravans lost their way. The sun burned, sand stretched endless, and travelers cried out in fear. Yet the wanderer, calm and steadfast, raised their eyes to the stars. He showed them constellations, ancient guides pointing toward unseen oases. With each step forward, despair gave way to trust and renewed will. They survived, not by chance, but by courage born from his guidance. Together the eternal soldiers moved, never crossing paths in mortal sight. Yet always they were one, bound by Athena's blessing and silent promise. When their work was done, they returned to the olive grove of eternity. There they shared their stories, each thread woven into the fabric of time. The scholar spoke of minds awakened, no longer chained by ignorance. The healer spoke of hearts strengthened, carrying kindness into the next dawn. The artist spoke of beauty reborn, reminding mortals of light in darkness. The wanderer spoke of courage found, guiding souls toward paths of hope. Athena listened, her eyes shining with quiet pride and unshaken trust. You have walked where mortals falter, yet lifted them with unseen hands. You are not saviors, but companions who remind them of their own strength. Her words fell upon them like a gentle wind through sacred trees. And again, the olive leaves shimmered, sealing their bond anew. The eternal soldiers returned to the mortal realm, called by unseen voices. A queen faced a choice between war and peace, and the scholars stood near. A mother lost her will to fight illness, and the healer touched her heart. An abandoned square stood silent until the artist filled it with song. A young traveler lost in storms found the wanderer's steady hand. Again and again, across centuries, they appeared as whispers of strength, never claiming glory, never asking for temples or offerings of gold. Their reward was the quiet smile of someone who dared to hope again. Their power lay not in miracles, but in reminding mortals of their light. Athena knew the world would never carve their names in marble, but their essence would remain, carried in choices, carried in hearts, so long as mortals dreamed of justice, kindness, beauty, and courage. The eternal soldiers would never fade, for they had become eternal truth, and thus their journey pressed onward, like the timeless song of the stars. The olive grove shimmered with soft light as the eternal soldiers gathered once more. Time outside had shifted, kingdoms risen and fallen, yet their circle remained unchanged. The scholar spoke first, his voice low, carrying weight beyond mortal years. In this age, knowledge is scattered, but wisdom is easily forgotten, he said. He had walked through libraries where books collected dust, unread and unvalued. He had seen voices silenced, not by force, but by neglect and apathy. Yet he had also met children whose curiosity burned brighter than any flame. He taught them not what to think, but how to seek truth themselves. The healer's eyes glowed as she shared her own path of compassion. I walked through cities of stone, crowded and restless, where sickness hid in silence. She tended to hearts more than wounds, listening to fears none dared speak. One simple touch, one kind word, was often more healing than herbs. She reminded mortals that health was not absence of pain, but presence of hope. The artist's turn came, his hands stained with fresh colors of another age. I found a place where walls stood tall, but hearts were crumbling within. He carved melodies into stone, painted stories that told of joy and struggle. Through beauty, he showed mortals that they were more than their daily toil. Art became their mirror, and in it, they rediscovered their forgotten light. The wanderer remained quiet for a time, then spoke of endless roads. I walked where nations met, where strangers feared one another without reason. He saw suspicion poison kindness, borders turn into walls within the heart. But he also met travelers who shared bread, water, and stories under the stars. He guided them toward trust, reminding them that every journey is shared. Athena listened, her gaze tender, her wisdom deep as flowing rivers. You have carried light into shadows, not with force, but with quiet presence. You have shown mortals their strength by reminding them of their humanity. Her words resonated, and the grove seemed to breathe with her blessing. The eternal soldiers bowed their heads, renewed in their sacred calling. Then a ripple passed through the air, carrying a new summons across time. A land trembled with doubt, leaders torn between greed and justice's call. The scholar walked among them unseen, whispering balance into their choices. A child cried in loneliness, her voice unheard amid the crowd's noise. The healer knelt beside her, lifting her heart with gentle compassion. An old square stood silent, filled with forgotten songs of the past. The artist sang there, his melody weaving memory with future dreams. A sailor lost at sea despaired beneath a sky without guiding stars. The wanderer pointed toward constellations hidden behind clouds, restoring his courage. So their journeys crossed again, each step invisible yet deeply felt. They moved not as legends, but as quiet forces shaping lives unseen. And always they returned to the grove, bearing stories of love reborn. There they rested, shared, and grew stronger, not in power, but in unity. Athena stood among them, no longer only a goddess, but a companion. She reminded them that eternity was not a gift of power, but of service. The olive leaves whispered above, scattering silver blessings onto their shoulders. The eternal soldiers looked at one another, feeling the bond stronger than before. They knew their path was endless. Yet it was not a burden. For every step they took carried the seeds of hope into mortal lives. And as stars wheeled overhead, their vow echoed across the fabric of time. The eternal soldiers would walk as long as humanity dreamed of light. And Athena's voice would guide them, steady as dawn, gentle as truth. The night in the grove was filled with silence, but not with emptiness. The eternal soldiers gathered, their faces lit by the glow of unseen stars. Athena stood among them, watching as each carried the weight of new journeys. The scholar spoke first, his voice like parchment turning in a quiet library. I walked among thinkers who built towers of knowledge, but forgot humility. They debated endlessly, but their wisdom was drowned in pride and noise. So he asked them questions that pierced their certainty, making them pause, not to shame them, but to remind them that truth is born of listening. The healer's turn came, her eyes soft, her words filled with gentle memory. I walked where fear ruled, and people turned away from one another. She sat with those who were shunned, touching hands no one dared touch. She did not cure all pain, but she restored dignity to the forgotten. And slowly, hearts softened, for compassion proved stronger than their fear. The artist spoke next, his voice carrying colors that no brush could hold. I found a land where people built tall towers, yet their souls felt empty. So he carved a fountain where water sang, reminding them of nature's rhythm. He painted walls with stories of love and struggle, songs of their ancestors. Through beauty, they saw not only what they were, but what they could be. The wanderer lifted his gaze, his words steady as a desert horizon. I walked where borders divided hearts, where strangers feared the unknown. He broke bread with both sides, sharing firelight under the same stars. Through stories and laughter, he showed them they were not enemies, but kin. They parted still wary, but seeds of trust had been planted in silence. Athena's voice flowed like water over stone, clear and unwavering. You walk unseen, yet the world bends gently with your steps. Your gift is not to change destiny, but to remind mortals of choice. Her words lingered, and the olive leaves above shone silver in the night. The eternal soldiers bowed, their vow unspoken yet deeper with each return. Then the grove shifted, and new whispers reached them across mortal ages. A poet lost her voice in grief, and the scholar guided her back to words. A young child trembled in fear of darkness, and the healer gave him light. An abandoned square waited silent until the artist filled it with song. A weary traveler doubted her strength, and the wanderer showed her the horizon. Each act was small, yet carried like ripples across the vast sea of time. No one carved their names, no one raised temples in their honor. But lives were changed, and through them, generations walked with brighter steps. They returned again to the grove, where stories flowed like gentle rivers. Each tale was a thread, woven into a tapestry that shimmered with eternity. Athena looked upon it, smiling softly, for it was not hers alone. It was theirs, the eternal soldiers, the quiet guardians of mortal hope. Their power was never in thunder or fire, but in the whisper of kindness. And so the grove stood eternal, filled with voices of love and promise. The world outside spun in cycles of war, peace, loss, and renewal. Yet always, unseen hands shaped it toward compassion, courage, and truth. And as long as mortals dreamed of something greater than themselves, the eternal soldiers would walk among them, silent, steadfast, and eternal. The grove welcomed them again, timeless and calm, as if the world paused to listen. The eternal soldiers gathered, each carrying quiet stories from distant corners of time. The scholar's eyes reflected candlelight, as though libraries still burned within him. I walked among rulers who wore crowns heavy with pride and fear, he began. They listened to advisors who flattered, yet silenced those who spoke truth. So he whispered not commands, but questions that reached their hidden doubts. He reminded them that a crown weighed less when carried for the people. The healer's voice followed, soft yet unshaken, like rivers flowing through stone. I stood in homes where silence hid grief too deep for words. She knelt beside mothers who held children lost in sorrow's shadow. She offered no miracle, but she shared their tears without judgment or fear. In her presence, pain did not vanish, but it grew lighter to bear. The artist's turn came, his hands bearing the dust of forgotten places. I entered streets where walls were gray, where color had long since faded. So he painted doorways with blossoms, skies with songs, dreams with gentle hues. Children stopped to watch, their laughter echoing in alleys once silent. Through his art, despair softened, replaced with wonder they thought lost forever. The wanderer stood tall, voice steady like winds crossing endless plains. I traveled roads where strangers turned away, fearing difference as danger. Yet when storms struck, they huddled close, sharing warmth and stories by fire. He reminded them that survival was never born from division, but from trust. And slowly, fear loosened, replaced by a fragile yet growing bond. Athena's eyes glowed, her voice carrying the strength of both wisdom and mercy. You do not break chains with force, but with the memory of freedom. You do not heal with miracles, but by awakening what mortals already hold. Her words settled in them, a blessing deeper than thunder or flame. The grove shone brighter, as though stars had descended into the olive branches. The eternal soldiers bowed, bound again to walk where mortals falter. And so they journeyed, their steps silent, their presence unseen, yet deeply felt. In one age, the scholar guided a scribe who doubted his voice of truth. In another, the healer comforted a child, abandoned in the cold streets. The artist painted a mural across ruins, teaching a city to dream again. And the wanderer lifted a lost sailor, showing him the path to safe shores. Each story was small, yet within it lived the seed of eternity. The world never carved statues, yet their presence endured in mortal memory. A kindness passed on, a truth spoken, a melody remembered in silence. All were threads, weaving a tapestry larger than any single age could see. When they returned to the grove, their voices mingled like rivers meeting. The scholar spoke of courage, the healer of compassion, the artist of wonder. The wanderer spoke of journeys, and Athena listened, her smile unbroken. You are not storms to change the earth, but rain to nurture seeds, she said. You are eternal not by power, but by love carried through time. The soldiers felt her words root within them, binding them stronger than before. For they were not guardians of conquest, but companions of hope. The grove shimmered once more, silver leaves falling gently like blessings of dawn. And as the stars turned, they rose again, ready to walk unseen roads. The eternal soldiers pressed onward, carrying light into every shadowed corner of the world. The night wind stirred the grove, carrying the whispers of stories yet untold. The eternal soldiers returned, their steps quiet, their hearts heavy with memories. The scholar spoke first, his voice steady like ink flowing across parchment. I walked among judges who claimed to know justice, yet forgot compassion. They spoke of law, yet failed to hear the cries of the voiceless. So he reminded them that true judgment begins not in courts, but in hearts. He taught them that justice without mercy becomes only another form of cruelty. The healer lifted her gaze, her words like balm upon an unseen wound. I journeyed through villages where sickness was met with fear, not care. She sat beside the weary, not as savior, but as sister in their struggle. She showed them that even a touch, a word, could heal the spirit within. And slowly, they remembered that no one heals alone. All healing is shared. The artist stepped forward, his hands stained with dust and color alike. I entered halls filled with gold, yet empty of music, empty of song. So he strung an old lyre and filled silence with melodies of dawn. He painted ceilings not with gods in thrones, but with children chasing light. Through beauty, he returned forgotten joy to those who thought themselves hollow. The wanderer followed, his voice rich with the rhythm of countless roads. I walked where walls rose higher each day, keeping neighbor from neighbor. So he knocked upon gates, not to break them, but to ask for bread. He shared food between strangers until suspicion melted into quiet fellowship. In their hunger, they saw they were not enemies, but mirrors of each other. Athena's gaze swept over them, steady as the moon over restless seas. You remind mortals not with thunder, but with whispers of truth and love. Your strength is not in power, but in the patience of eternal return. Her words rested upon them, as gentle as dew upon olive leaves. The grove seemed brighter, filled with unseen music, woven from their tales. The soldiers bowed, their vow renewed in silence deeper than words. And so they departed again, stepping into the streams of mortal lives. The scholar guided a teacher lost in doubt, reminding her that wisdom grows. The healer held a grieving father, teaching him that love survives even loss. The artist lit a marketplace with color, showing merchants the beauty of unity. The wanderer walked beside a weary pilgrim, guiding her steps with laughter. Each act was small, yet it rippled outward, touching lives beyond their reach. No temples rose, no scrolls recorded their names, but hearts carried their mark. For kindness lives longer than stone, and truth outlasts the proudest monuments. When they returned once more, the grove welcomed them with silver light. Their stories intertwined, forming constellations that glowed in the eternal sky. The scholar spoke of justice tempered by mercy, wisdom shaped by humility. The healer spoke of compassion, the art of bearing burdens together. The artist spoke of beauty, a light that awakens souls from despair. The wanderer spoke of unity, the truth that no heart is truly foreign. Athena listened, her smile carrying the weight of ancient certainty. You are the echo of eternity, she said, the memory of love that endures. And as long as mortals choose hope over fear, you will never fade. The soldiers felt her blessing, not as fire, but as quiet strength within. For they were not guardians of power, but companions of the fragile flame. And so, beneath eternal stars, they rose again to walk unseen paths. The eternal soldiers pressed onward, eternal in purpose, endless in hope. The grove shimmered under a pale moon, waiting for voices to return once more. The eternal soldiers arrived, their steps quiet, their hearts carrying hidden burdens. The scholar's eyes glowed with the weight of questions carried through ages. "I walked among thinkers who loved debate more than truth," he said softly. They spoke with brilliance, yet their words were like mirrors reflecting only themselves. So he reminded them that wisdom is not shown by winning, but by listening. He taught them that silence can hold more truth than endless noise. The healer bowed her head, her words falling like gentle rain on dry soil. "I walked among those who feared death so much, they forgot how to live. They clung to remedies, chasing immortality, yet losing the joy of presence. She sat with them, not promising eternity, but teaching the gift of moments. Her touch reminded them that even fragile breaths carry infinite worth." The artist stepped forward, his voice alive with color and rhythm. "I found a city that forgot its stories, where walls were blank and bare. So he carved a mural where children painted beside him with laughter. He taught them that memory lives not in stone, but in shared creation. Through their hands, the city remembered that beauty is born of many voices." The wanderer lifted his gaze, his words carrying the horizon's vastness. "I walked among wanderers who feared they had no home, no belonging. So he walked with them, showing that belonging is not a place, but a bond. He reminded them that a heart can carry shelter even in endless travel. In his presence, the lost felt less alone, and the weary found strength. Athena's eyes shone like starlight, breaking through restless clouds of night. "You do not erase fear," she said. "You teach mortals to walk with it. You do not stop endings, but you reveal the beauty of beginnings within them." Her words fell like seeds, taking root in their eternal vows once more. The grove pulsed gently, filled with unseen music, woven of love and time. The eternal soldiers bowed, bound again to walk paths unseen yet eternal. And so they left, stepping into lives, waiting quietly for their touch. The scholar guided a philosopher drowning in doubt, reminding him that humility is strength. The healer held a mother's hand in farewell, showing that love outlives parting. The artist painted stars upon a prison wall, awakening dreams of freedom. The wanderer lifted a tired soldier's heart, teaching him that peace begins within. Each story was small, yet each echoed like ripples upon the endless sea. The world knew no names, built no shrines, yet carried their silent blessing. For kindness outlasts kingdoms, and hope endures where memory is nurtured. When they returned, the grove welcomed them with silver leaves falling gently. The scholar spoke of truth, the healer of presence, the artist of memory. The wanderer spoke of belonging, and their voices wove a hymn of eternity. Athena smiled, her voice filled with both joy and solemn grace. "You are the quiet guardians of the mortal spirit, the eternal companions of hope. And while mortals stumble, love will rise again, carried by your steps." The soldiers bowed low, their vow deeper than stars, older than time. For they were not storms, but steady rain, not rulers, but gentle guides. And so, as night embraced the grove, they rose to walk again. The eternal soldiers pressed onward, bearing light across the endless span of ages. The grove lay silent beneath a sky woven with endless stars, waiting for their return. The eternal soldiers gathered once more, their hearts carrying centuries of quiet deeds. The scholar spoke first, his voice calm, carrying the weight of patient wisdom. "I walked among mortals who doubted their own worth in the shadow of others." He told them that knowledge was not measured in comparison, but in shared growth. He reminded them that true wisdom is never a contest, but a gift. The healer lifted her voice. gentle as dawn rising over sleeping fields. I journeyed where despair wrapped tightly around those who had lost all hope. She held their hands, whispering that even broken hearts still carry a rhythm. Through her presence, they remembered that healing begins the moment we are seen. The artist spoke next, his words filled with the glow of unseen colors. I found towns stripped of beauty, where people forgot how to dream. So he painted skies across forgotten walls and carved laughter into empty streets. He taught them that beauty is not luxury, but the breath of the soul. The wanderer raised his eyes, his words carrying the music of horizons. I walked among travelers who feared they had no home, no place to rest. He showed them that belonging is not bound to land, but born in love. Through his steps, they discovered that every road can lead to kinship. Athena stood among them, her presence steady as the olive tree eternal. You have walked far, and still the world needs your unseen light. You do not command mortals, but remind them of the truths they hold. Her words shone like lanterns in the quiet night, blessing their endless vow. The soldiers bowed, their silence deeper than any oath spoken in temples. The grove trembled softly, filled with voices of ages past and yet to come. In distant lands, a child's laughter rose where once only silence lived. In a lonely room, a grieving heart found comfort in a gentle hand. On broken walls, colors bloomed again, carrying hope into forgotten alleys. Along weary roads, strangers shared bread and warmth beneath the same stars. No one wrote their names. No stone bore their faces. No crowns marked them. Yet their presence lived in every kindness passed from one heart to another. For eternity is not measured in monuments, but in the love that endures. When they returned once more, their voices wove together like threads of light. The scholar spoke of humility, the healer of compassion, the artist of wonder. The wanderer spoke of unity, and Athena listened, her smile unbroken. You are the memory of love, the guardians of what mortals forget, she said. And as long as hope breathes, you shall walk forever beside them. The grove glowed brighter, silver leaves falling like blessings from an eternal sky. The soldiers rose, their vow unshaken, their path endless, their light steadfast. They turned to the horizon, where countless stories waited for their touch. For they were not warriors of conquest, but companions of the human spirit. They were whispers in silence, strength in weakness, light in the shadowed path. And so they walked onward, timeless, unseen, carrying hope across the ages. The grove remained eternal, a sanctuary of voices, love, and unending promise. And the eternal soldiers lived on, not in legend, but in the beating of mortal hearts.